again, thank you so much for returning. You know, during those years, I was pretty messed up. In fact, I talk with my wife about it now, and I look at my life as being, I was upside down. You know, you can think of it as being backwards or upside down, but I look at it as like I was upside down. And I think about everybody else around me and how I saw everyone else as upside down. And it took me a long time to realize that I was the one who was upside down. But even then, you know, I couldn't facilitate change in my life. But I talk about my wife now, and this is not the woman I married in the beginning. This is my second wife. Her name is Orpha, and she's God's gift to me. She's God's treasure. And I do want to share a little bit about how we met, because I see that as such a special thing, and God did something amazing when he put us together. It's beyond explanation other than just to illustrate how things happen. Now, when I left Bible college, I moved to another city. Again, you know, just moving around, and I stayed there for a year and a half, and then I moved again, following a girl off to college in Canyon. And that's where we were, in Canyon, Texas. And her parents had forbidden us from being together, from dating. And so when they found out that I was there, they came and got her, took her home, and I stayed. I refused to leave, and we lost touch completely. Of course, there was no way they were going to let us be together, but I stayed there. I got a job. I enrolled in school, but even then, I quit after a while. I left school after a year. I went back home. I moved back. I mean, I was so restless and shiftless. I finally did settle into a job that I ended up staying at for several years. It was a good job, and I ended up working my way up to a front-end trainer. It's a little grocery store, little mom and pop place, and I ended up being the cashier who trained the new cashiers coming in. I wasn't a manager or anything like that, but Orpha got a job working there as a cashier, and she really only worked there like 3 or 4 weeks, and then she left. But during that time, we palled around a little bit. You know, there was nothing physical, nothing romantic. We never talked about being together or getting together, but we both kind of felt a little bit of an attraction. And you know, she had kids though. She was also promiscuous. She was dating a married man, and I was a youth volunteer in a church. We were completely different, completely separate in our lives. In fact, I remember one night she called me, and I say night, it was morning, 2 o'clock in the morning, and I'm pretty sure it was a weekend. She was so drunk, she couldn't drive home. She didn't have a ride, and I went and picked her up, like a 30-40 minute drive each way. You know, so she saw me as a Christian man, non-judgmental, very loving. Even though I saw some of her behaviors, even though I saw some of the negative or the party life, you know, she was playful, she was fun, she was happy, she was funny. And so during that time, we kind of got to see enough of one another's, you know, good side that we had fond memories of one another. You know, it would be several years later that she would actually return to a relationship with God. And when she got saved, she searched for me. She tried to find me. By that time, just like my pattern, you know, I was already gone from the area completely. So she couldn't find me. She didn't know how to find me. And she had started serving the Lord. And during those years, those were the years that I was really struggling. Those were the years that I got married. Those were the years that, you know, I had a child. Those were the years that were so tough on me. And it was around 40 years old. I was still moving from place to place to place. And I ended up in Garland, Texas. You know, I ended up staying with my brother for a little while in the Dallas-Fort Worth area. And I was trolling on Facebook. And back then I was looking up a lot of girls and women from my past, trying to make a connection, because by the time I reconnected with my wife, I had been divorced for several years, and very reluctant to enter into a relationship, very reluctant to want to get married again, but I'd started to feel that urge. So I was reaching out to people, and I was starting to just kind of get up to my old habits again. And I remembered her, and I searched for her on Facebook. She was so excited to get my friend request. She immediately accepted it. She told one of her friends that very night, hey, this is the guy I'm going to marry. A couple of days, we talked about getting married, and within a few months, we were actually married. And I will tell you something you probably already know. Our marriage was not bliss. I had not dealt with any of the issues that had plagued me for 40 years, 30 years, depends upon when they started. But I'm 40 and I have not dealt with anything in my life. In fact, if anything, these things have set in, they've become strongholds, they're more powerful than ever. And one thing that I haven't talked about yet that I've saved for now is that I not only brought all of these things into my marriage with Orpha, one of the other issues that I began dealing with during the time of the abuse was pornography. You know, I told you I never had any homosexual tendencies, but I became addicted to pornography. And I mean, through Bible college, through youth ministry, through youth volunteer, through my first marriage, pornography was a constant theme. I never, ever, not only did I not get free of it, I enjoyed it so much that I could never release it, never let go of it. In fact, I kept telling myself, man, I got to stop this. Man, I got to stop this. I would buy magazines and throw them away, thinking I was going to overcome it, and it never happened. And so I brought pornography into my marriage with a woman who had been married and in relationship with man after man after man who did nothing but hurt her, disappoint her, frustrate her, manipulate her, abuse her. And so when she began to see the pornography and the other bondages that I was under, she was thinking, here we go again. She asked the Lord, what is it about me that draws these type of men? And me, I didn't feel like I was an abuser. I didn't feel like I was someone who was bringing hurt and pain. I felt like I was a victim of all the things I'd been through all my life. And again, that mentality where I was the one who people were supposed to accommodate. Things were supposed to go my way. And I really carried all of these attitudes, all of these bondages into my marriage. And it almost ended my marriage within a year or two. Orpha was ready to leave. And she was about to go. And the Holy Spirit told her to stay. He told her to stay. And she did. And what you have to know is that even though all of these things were in my life, all these behaviors, all of these needy, manipulative, just craving behaviors that I engaged in my heart and in my spirit, I always knew I needed to overcome them. And I was so sincere about doing that. I want to tell you about the way God brought that change into my life, how He saved my marriage, and ultimately, He saved my life in this last video.